Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into athletics at the college level. My guest today is John Cunningham. He is the athletic director at University of Cincinnati, and welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, Anthony.
Yeah, so John, usually I ask my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
Yeah, I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, but I went to school at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas, and went down there, had a great experience, was an English major, and pretty early on knew I wanted to go to law school. So I ended up going back home to Nebraska and went to law school at Nebraska. And I always say about halfway through law school, I realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. And that's not the best time to figure that out, but that's when I did. So I had to pivot and adjust. And so I was fortunate to talk to some people about getting involved in college athletics and made my way into that world from Nebraska Law School.
Wow. So let's just go back in time before we get started on where you are. When you were in high school, when did it all begin for you to start thinking about college? Was it freshman year, senior year? When did it all start for you?
Yeah, I was probably one of those that always knew I wanted to go to college. I think I knew pretty early on that I wanted to go away to college. I grew up in a college town in Lincoln, and I think I just wanted a different experience. And so both of my parents had gone away to college, and so it was kind of part of something that I always thought I wanted to do. And so fortunately, I found TCU. I was starting to look at different sizes of schools, and it fit the size of school I was looking for. And I think growing up in Nebraska and dealing with the winters there, I was just ready for some warmth, to be honest with you. And so I found this beautiful campus in Fort Worth, Texas, and went down there and really perfect size for me. It's a relatively small school, private school, and had a great time, great experience there.
So you're at TCU. What did you think about the school? Did you play any sports? Was anything involved?
Yeah, I did not play sports. Although I was one of those super fans. I would go to all the sporting events. And I always tell people the funny thing about going to TCU when I did, my first year there, we went 1-10 in football, and we beat SMU the last game of the year. We rushed the field and tore down the goalposts. And so that's how bad we were. One of the worst programs in the country, but I was in the same class as LaDainian Tomlinson. And so I got to kind of watch the rise of TCU football while I was there. Coach Dennis Francione was the coach at that time, and he did a really nice job of getting the program going. And I got to see how important college athletics was to a university. And I think it's really changed the dynamic of TCU in a lot of ways. It went from a small regional Texas school to, really a national brand over the last 20 years. And they've redone campus, and it's just amazing what they've been able to do there. And I think a lot of it has to do with athletics. So from my standpoint, athletics was definitely a very big part of what I did there. I was in the honors program, and I love those honors courses because they were small classes. And so, if you have a chance to get into an honors program and you're passionate about the program, it can be really, really great. I met a lot of my friends through that honors program. And so that was really my experience. I worked in the library and went to all the sporting events and just had a really, really good time for 4 years.
So you go from there, you go to law school. What did you think of law school?
Law school for me, I got there. It was challenging. And I think I took a year off between undergrad and law school. And I think if I had to do it over again personally, I know people have different views on this. I would have either gone straight to law school or I would have actually taken more time. And I just kind of got out of sync and out of rhythm, I think, a little bit with studying. So law school was fascinating. I really liked a lot of aspects to it. But it was definitely challenging, and it took me a while to get my feet underneath me. My best years in law school were my second and third years by far.
So how does one go from law school to becoming the athletic director at University of Cincinnati?
Yeah, a lot of fortunate events and really people that came into my life at different times that led me to this place, to be honest with you. And for me, it started with, I did 2 summers as an intern at the University of Maryland. And again, I wrote a couple of letters to schools, and I was specifically looking for the DC area because my now wife was living out there. And so I just happened to get a call back from Maryland and was able to intern in their compliance office for 2 summers. And then that led to my first job. And so very fortunate to land a job at Maryland and start my career. And then I had a chance to go back to TCU and to my alma mater. So I jumped at that. I had an unbelievable experience there for 5 years as working in their compliance office and really learning that trade. And then I took a flyer. My wife and I didn't have kids at the time, and I'd never been out west. And Boise State had an opening for a little bit of an advancement for me. It was going to work actually out of their general counsel's office, and they were coming off of an infraction, and so I knew I'd be working hand in hand with the athletic director there, which they didn't have at the time I took the job. So they're in between athletic directors. So I took the job, and someone came into my life, which is a man named Mark Coyle, and it was his first athletic director job at Boise State. He had worked at Kentucky for a long time previous to that. And so he and I hit it off, and obviously we're working closely together on an infractions case, and then started to really build a connection. And at some point in time, I told him that I wanted to be an athletic director. And, I give him all the credit because he just said, okay, I'm going to help you get there. And that's what I think you really need in your life is just someone to say, I see something in you. I'm going to try to help you along the path and get you there. And that's what he did for me, and started to advance my career in different ways, got me out of the compliance area. I think I was pigeonholed a little bit in that area. And so he expanded my horizons a little bit in athletics. And then he got the AD job at Syracuse, and I followed him to Syracuse, New York for a year. And then he got the AD job at Minnesota, and he's an Iowa kid and I'm a Nebraska kid. So going back to the Midwest was pretty special. And then I followed him there for 3.5 years before I got the AD job here at Cincinnati.
Wow. So you've been around.
I've been all over the place. Yeah. I think it's for some people in this profession, it's part of the deal, and it's certainly been part of the deal for me.
Yeah. So University of Cincinnati, can you give me what the position is about, what the school is about? Give me a sense of what the University of Cincinnati is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really special urban institution. It's 45,000 students, so it's a large urban university, and it's to me, it's so well positioned in this great city. I mean, you have so many things around Cincinnati that you can take advantage of, and great companies that are here, like Procter & Gamble and Kroger and others. And so they really focus in on what your life is going to look like after you graduate. And they do a really nice job of internships and placing people in different positions to advance their future careers. And I think they really pride themselves on that. So it's a great university, really pretty campus. And I've really been fortunate because the athletics department is located in this kind of, I would call it almost like an Olympic Village type of feel, right in the heart of campus. And our football stadium is in the middle of everything. It's Nippert Stadium. It's one of the oldest stadiums in the country, and it's right outside the building here, and everything is so close and in a tight proximity. That'd be one of the things that I'd be really excited about as a student here, is that you can get around campus very easily, but it has a really good feel to it as well. So it's been a great fit. I've been here over a year, and it's a really nice place to be.
So being the athletic director, you deal with all the different sports there. What are some of the sports? Do you have all, I guess there's about 26 sports. Do you have all of them?
No, we don't. We have 18 sports, and we have a really good mix of different sports. But yeah, we don't have them all, but we have quite a few of them. Some maybe unique ones. I mean, we have women's lacrosse. We have a swimming and diving program. Women's soccer, women's tennis. So we have great variety of sports, all the tracks, indoor, outdoor, cross country on men's and women's side. So we really have a broad spectrum, and I think we're really proud of that.
Nice. And so how does the school compete? What are some of the schools they compete against? What conference are they in?
We're in the American Conference, and so a good mix of schools in the American Conference and some of the best cities in the country. I always say that. I mean, it's a tremendous conference in terms of getting to travel to these great spots. But you have schools like a couple of Florida schools like UCF and USF, so South Florida and Central Florida, Memphis, Tulane, Eastern Carolina. I'm going to forget some, but Tulsa, SMU. I mean, it's really a nice spectrum, and kind of a broad footprint too. Temple in Philadelphia. So you get some of these major cities and these really great institutions, and it's a really good mix for what we're trying to do at Cincinnati.
So what can the high school student expect when they come to University of Cincinnati? What give me a sense of what a first year student goes throughout the whole year. Do they get to school early as a student athlete? Do they get there late? How does it all work for the student athlete?
Yeah, as a student athlete, they certainly a lot of our student athletes are going to come in the summer at some point. Football, men's, women's basketball have access because of the NCAA rules. They actually have access to their coaches in the summer. These are some of the recent rule changes over the past 10 years. And so it's nice to see all of them in the summer. And we have a class that we put them in that's really just a welcome to college type of course that they'll take in addition to maybe some other courses in the summer as well. So, it's an active, one of the misnomers is that in some way in athletics, you get the summer off. That's not true. It's especially not anymore. It's an active campus, and athletics is very active in the summer. So that's great. And then some of our fall sports will start to arrive for their training camp. So like cross country, women's soccer, volleyball will start to arrive early because they've got a quick turnaround. They start competition right away in the fall, and so they'll be here getting ready for that. And then everybody kind of shows up as a regular student does. In August, the rest of our student athletes, our freshman student athletes, show up at that point, and you kick things off with an all student athlete meeting and kind of let them know what the deal is, and they meet their teammates and you go. So it's a fun time of year. I'm looking forward to it already.
And then the fall sports start and end when? And then when does the Christmas break come in? What does the spring break look like? How does that all work?
Yeah, we say we have fall sports, winter sports, and spring sports. And so the fall sports, take place in the first couple months of the year, and that's their championship season. And once their championships are done, then they have a little bit of a break usually, and then they come back in the spring and they train and they have some competition in the spring, but it's not for a championship. So that would be considered a fall sport. A winter sport like basketball, and swimming and diving, you cover both the fall and the spring, and you kind of split the season in between. And so, basketballs really are here throughout the time. They'll get a little bit of a break over Christmas, but not much of one, and they kind of go throughout the middle of the year, and then they're done in March, obviously, when you have March Madness for the basketballs. And then you have your spring sports that again, they're competing in the fall in some way. They're definitely training, getting ready in the fall, but their championship segment occurs in the spring. And so like women's lacrosse would be a championship segment in the spring. And so they'll go, or baseball, maybe even a better example, they'll go all the way into the early part of the summer to finish off their year. So that's kind of the spectrum, and it keeps us busy for sure.
And then of course in the summer they're on their own pretty much, or they just get there early in July, they get started again.
It depends. Again, it depends on the sport. Some sports are here, a certain portion of the summer, and they'll have, a few weeks off. But then some of our sports go home for the entire summer, and they'll come back at the start of the year. So it really kind of depends. And sometimes it depends on if you need a summer school class. So if you need a summer school class, you might stay for whatever reason, and we we certainly like to take care of our student athletes and get them ahead. Since they're putting so much time and effort into their sport, it's always nice to take advantage of some summer coursework to get them academically ahead.
Now, as you know, colleges these days are not cheap. So I usually ask a lot of the athletic directors that come on the show, what are some of the things that the school offers? I know football and basketball are usually scholarship sports, but not every single sport has full scholarships. So could you explain what's available at University of Cincinnati?
Yeah, we have some sports that are full scholarship, just a few really, and then the other sports are a portion of a scholarship essentially. So we call those equivalency sports. And so what the NCAA will do is they'll put a number of total scholarships that you can give out, and it won't be enough to cover your whole team. So that means that you're dividing your scholarships up, usually by a percentage. Some people use a dollar amount, but usually you do it by a percentage. So you'll say you'll have a 50% scholarship, or you'll have a 75% scholarship. And so that's kind of the way it goes for most sports, and they have different people on their team with different levels of scholarship. And there's some movement throughout your time. There can certainly be an opportunity to go up in scholarship as you continue along your path. So you may start at 25%, but then by your senior year, maybe you're up to 68% or some percentage. So there's always a chance that you can increase that number. And then we have a good percentage of our student athletes that are walk-ons. They're not receiving a scholarship. They receive the benefits of being a student athlete. They have the academic help that we have here through our academic services. They get the training room help, obviously, and the strength conditioning support and all those things. We treat them just like we would any other student athlete. They get all the Under Armour gear that our student athletes get, but they don't have the scholarship piece to go along with that. So they're in a different position, obviously. So we have a broad spectrum, and my thing is, we have 450 student athletes, and to me, they're all the same, and we treat them all the same and make sure they have a good experience.
Now, do some student athletes as walk-ons, being that they're regular students, the school has academic money, merit money, that type of availability for them?
Yes. So if you're on a partial scholarship or you're a walk-on, you can certainly apply just like every other student for academic aid, and that's part of what we do as well. A lot of our walk-ons will be on academic aid, and that certainly will help them out.
So now, how do you promote the school so then students know that they want to come to University of Cincinnati?
Yeah, certainly our campus is very focused in on admissions and making sure that we're reaching all corners of the country, and obviously a lot of focus in on the Ohio area as well. So they've got a great program to make sure they get the word out. I think from an athletic standpoint, what we can do to help is we can drive the brand through exposure through our athletics teams. So when we played in the Peach Bowl this year versus Georgia, which is one of those big bowl games on New Year's Day, and we had 8.7 million people tune in, and that's incredible brand exposure for not just the athletics program, but really for the university. And we have commercials that were played during that game that weren't athletics commercials; they were university commercials, and so that's a big piece of what we can do from an athletic standpoint, is really drive that brand in any way we can.
So now the big thing these days is the NCAA image and likeness for students. Is that coming up quite a bit from parents and students talking to you?
It is. Yeah. Everybody's kind of awaiting the decisions of the NCAA, the decisions potentially of Congress. Some of the state legislatures are going through the process of passing bills. So there's a lot of things up in the air right now, including the Supreme Court that's going to review a case that partially has to do with name, image, and likeness this spring, and then come out with a decision this summer. So there's just a lot of moving parts. So we are getting questions about it. We know there's going to be some version of name, image, and likeness that's going to be available to our student athletes. And so from an athletic director standpoint, we just want to make sure that we're ready to hit the ground running when that goes into effect, and really just help our student athletes grow their brand, help them take advantage of any opportunities they might have, but then also give them the support so they don't feel like they're out there alone, trying to navigate that world. So we're certainly we're prepping and getting things in position to do that.
Now, how did the pandemic hit University of Cincinnati? Could you give me what some of the things that you've been doing and how you're working through everything?
Yeah, it's been a challenging year, just like it has been for a lot of different people, and really universities just in general trying to navigate this whole thing. But from our standpoint, we didn't sell a ticket, so we didn't sell a ticket in football, basketball, and that's brutal for us because the ticket revenue that we get is really, really important to what we do. So because we didn't have that, we had to adjust. We had to be very smart with our budget. We had to go fundraise some additional funds through what we call the Next Level Fund. And so reaching out to our supporters and our donors and fans to say, hey, we need you more than ever. And so we've done a really nice job with that. So budget wise, we've been able to kind of navigate it. But it's been hard. And then the other difficult thing is just implementing a testing program and implementing an isolation and a quarantine program. Because we have had positives just like anybody else. And so we've had shutdowns and it's been a challenge. It certainly has, but I'm really proud of our department for kind of rolling up your sleeves and taking on the challenge and being resourceful and coming up with a way to keep sports going. Because I think it's been really important for our young people. I think it's kept them engaged, and I think it's also been important for our fan base too, to be able to watch some football games and some basketball games during this really tough year.
Yeah. So how about coaches? So you said you have about 18 sports there?
Yeah.
What's the variety of coaches you got there? A lot of experience, just a small amount of experience? They come from the University of Cincinnati. They come from other schools.
Yeah, all of the above. So we have some coaches that are just starting out as head coaches. We've got some that have been here a long time, and we have some that graduated from Cincinnati and have strong Cincinnati connections, and then we have others that don't have any connections before they get here. So it really is a mix. It's amazing to sit down with that group. I consider them part of my senior leadership team, along with my executive team as well. And they really are. They're all kind of cut from the same cloth, no matter what sport they're involved in. I've always said this. I've been around college athletics long enough and seen a lot of different coaches. They're all very competitive, number one. They really do care about their student athletes and they want the best for them. And I truly believe that. And they're really good leaders of young people. And so that's their common denominator. And then from there, they've got their all have their own idiosyncrasies too, but they're fun to be around. And whenever you're around really competitive people, it makes you competitive, makes you move quicker. The pace of play is very, very fast in college athletics, and I think it's because you're around really competitive coaches all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the students that are watching this? What advice do you want to give them that want to come to University of Cincinnati, but what advice would you like to give them?
Well, apply. Make sure you apply. Get in early with your application. I think that's always a good thing to do. Reach out and let people at Cincinnati know that you want to be at Cincinnati. I think maybe that's not stated enough. I know from our admission standpoint, we're looking for students that really want to be here. And I think sometimes if you just reach out and show the passion to be a part of what the Bearcats are doing on this campus, and especially if you do your research ahead of time and you can speak to some of the things you see, like our innovation center, maybe you highlight the fact that you want to start your own business and you want to be a part of our innovation center, or you look at our business school and what it does, or our fine arts school, which is one of the best in the country. And so if you can speak to some of those things, I think it can really carry a lot of weight. And so I think it can help you with admission into the school. I think it potentially could help you with scholarships. And so I wouldn't be shy, whether it's Cincinnati or really any school, about reaching out to the admissions office and letting them know who you are and how interested you are with being at that school.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
It was great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.